A very warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for joining us on this short episode of the Roundtable Talk. My name is Frans, Molefe Modise, and you are watching Tshwane Talk TV. I am joined by an independent political analyst, Mr. Mpho Maake. Welcome to you, sir.
Good evening.
And as usual, we are in deliberations with Mr. Maake on issues of societal discourse. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about the article that you have deposited, which you have entitled the Post-Apartheid Policy Dilemma, which means that you assert that post-apartheid, as South Africa, we have suffered from the policy dilemma.
Yes.
But what would you say, Mr. Maake, to those who actually would say that, on the contrary to your view, actually South Africa suffers from the state of triumph of policy but failure of practice?
Yeah, that's a very interesting analysis, but otherwise it remains two dilemmas, two sufferings,
Yeah.
two failures. Yes, the issue of policy failure or inaction is a very critical one to a democracy, because one thing that sets democracy apart from apartheid is that it should, or it supposes to include people, masses in policy making or policy formulation process. But unfortunately, after Mandela, RDP office that was headed by Jane Naidu was summarily closed by succeeding President Thabo Mbeki, which was seen as a move that sought to professionalize policy-making process, and that denied the masses on the ground and public and civil society opportunity to be able to voice their opinions in policy-making.
Yes.
I would think that this is one of the highlights that many people have pointed out as one of the rapid failures that led to the decline of proper policy-making process. But as you correctly cited some observation from other analysts, very true that if there was action on the ground to support policy decisions, to support action plans that are put from white papers, green papers, right up to when it is a solid policy that is supposed to be implemented, probably we would be saying what others are attesting to, or claiming that if there was action, then we would be talking about policy success supported by a positive action. But I would say still go back to the article that I penned out, that yes, I believe that it's a dilemma. A policy-making process is in a dilemma state, not only in terms of consultation or not consultation, but it is incoherent. Policy-making in this country is very incoherent. Presidents normally use panels of advisors. If you remember, in 2021 July, after 2021 July riots, there was a panel that advised President Ramaphosa. But what happened to those advices? Some of them they were quashed. I can give example of a basic income grant. It was suggested by a panel of advisors, but the president simply did not take it. And in fact, we are told that he was very scathing on that panel as to why would they even think something like that. So to show that policy making process is not only a deficit, but also a lack of action as well, as we have pointed out. But again, incoherence in terms of what type of policy do we want, what do we want it to respond to, how long should this policy take, who should really develop it, who should implement it, and how, what are the mechanisms, and what support do these people have? Because you now have ministers that want to control director generals and CEOs.
Mm.
SOEs have collapsed basically.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Because there is interference from political bosses. So that's why I'm saying it's not only the issue of action and inaction, consultation or no consultation, but mostly the issue of incoherence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, talking of the collapsing SOEs, it's not only the SOEs that have collapsed,
Yeah.
but actually and this is, would like to get your action on this one. That do you think that is it by design, or is it a deliberate on the part of the current government that it has left the current state infrastructure to decay? And if it is by design or deliberate, what would be the logic for that?
It's a very dangerous question, $1 million. But
Yeah.
if I attempt to answer it, I would say what we analyze, because we deal with data, we deal with research, we deal with facts, we deal
Yeah.
with stats.
Mm.
If you look at the manner in which infrastructure that was left by apartheid, a great legacy, I must say. Apartheid was inhuman, it was dreadful, but one of the positives that one can take is that there was economic stability. Even if there were embargoes, there were consumer boycotts, there were sanctions, but that dreadful government managed somehow, to keep the Titanic not to sink. But you would correctly see definitely that some of the infrastructure, industries, hospitals, colleges were left
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
decay because there was no reason that they were not sustained, except to say that perhaps the new government wanted to leave legacy or build legacy of its own, did not want to fly on the wings of Bantustan leaders like Lucas Manyani Mangope
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the Buputazwana regime. Some people even now, you would see in social media, there are clips that are circulating of that former Bantustan leader, a fierce critic of the ANC. He branded it a communist government on the horizon. It will come with a disaster, and now someone can say he told you so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ke mmuso wa magodu.
Yes, so one can see that there was somehow a deliberate, or well intended or non-intended, but the fact remains, action was not taken to preserve and to sustain that beautiful infrastructure. So that's why you would phrase it well as well by saying left it to decay. You have industries in Garankuwa, in Breds,
Yeah. Yeah.
in many areas
Yeah.
where there was former homelands, not only Buputatswana, there were hospitals, there were universities that would service communities far and wide. But after the democratic government, those infrastructural developments were left to decay, or they were run down. So yes, there could have been a failure in thought in terms of how can we protect or build our own legacy. How can we write our own history without having to destroy or leave that other history to self-destruct or self-decay? Because what now happens is that the current government is going down in history as both the destroyer of the past legacy and failure to build ongoing forward-looking legacy. So I think if I was a member of the ANC, if I was in government, this is something that one would have really wanted to see paid serious attention. That remember, history writes itself. You don't write history, and you cannot control history. History moves. If you don't move with history, it will move you out. So it will be very much important for this issue to be looked into very seriously as to, but what is our role after taking over from apartheid? What have we done? Have we destroyed anything? Did we really have to leave it to decay? What can be done now? Can we salvage? So the issue of history and legacy, I think, comes to play when it comes to that question. That's why I said it's $1 million one.
Maybe just a follow-up. do you think that the ANC as a party has it done enough to hold itself accountable, in a sense that you'll have subcommittees of the NEC, a subcommittee on economic development,
Yeah.
subcommittee on education, so on and so on. At the provincial level, you'll have those committees and the working committee. At your regional level, at your branch level, you have your PECs, which with also with those subcommittees. And I think the logic there of having those subcommittees from the NEC, province, region to branch is so that the subcommittee will then say to the one deployed in government, how far are you in terms of this? Do you think that the ANC has done enough in that regard to hold itself accountable? And yeah.
No, it reminds me of the strategy that the official opposition in Parliament, DA, has adopted of shadow ministers.
Yeah, yes.
And also, if you look at it, you can also see very clearly portfolio committees that are in Parliament. You can see these are check and balance subcommittees to check departments and their leaders, ministers, political heads, as to their performance. Yes, I think on paper, as you said in your previous question, on paper it looks like most policies are written down. The structure has been put into dotted line, but the issue of follow-up is now that which really brings to mind issues of whether there is proper accountability. But if there was, then there was not going to be state capture. There was not going to be failure and collapse of SOEs. There was not going to be total overhaul or a destruction of the public purse. The fiscus is 000. Rating agencies have downgraded South Africa to the lowest degrees. But it's because even if there are great structural or procedural processes on dotted line, but there is no proper follow-up because probably cadre deployment, probably people cannot speak because if they become vocal, then they are now identified as problematic and they will not be deployed. So the issue of structures, I think ANC government, the issue of ready to govern, opined by one stalwart, Governor Mbeki. Yes. Whether if the ANC was really ready to govern, for me it remains a debatable issue because if the ANC was ready to govern, I don't think it would have ran into troubles that it has. Because remember, the first term of Rolihlahla Mandela, it was something like a mixed government. You had the FW declared the
national government of national unity.
But as soon as he went out, then President Mbeki came in. Then you could see now this was ANC proper in charge. And remember, Mbeki was always behind the scenes as the driver and the initiator and drafter of a lot of policies with Cyril Ramaphosa. So now, as you look at South Africa now, Cyril Ramaphosa is at the helm. Thabo Mbeki was at the helm before, and even now it is argued by some people that they are working together. You can see that this is a failure of 28 years. There is no way we can say there was a breather. No, maybe the party was not very much involved directly. The party has always been involved directly, and the failures are attributed to the party. And until the party is able to hold itself accountable properly, then I would say to you that we can really write an obituary of the glorious movement and the liberation history and the liberation struggle. So much promise that masses of the people were looking ahead to. But you can see John Saul writes that these are failed promises. John Saul writes that Southern Africa's failed flawed freedoms. They have just reached the shores of the southern tip of Africa, which is South Africa.
But at this stage, looking at what is happening, do you think the ANC has that capability of making accountability a normalized culture in the structures, right from the branch, your councillors, up to the national level.
The recent conferences have not shown that, because if you look at the policy conference and the resolutions that came out there, you can see that most members, it's either they do not really understand the role of a delegate, the role of conferences. Why are you there? You are there to shape policy, you are there to influence laws, you are there to rebuild the party, you are there to make sure that the party corrects itself through reports, branch reports, provincial reports that you are presented to. But you know, it was factional politics, it was heckling. They spent a lot of time arguing on administrative matters instead of dealing with the content, instead of coming up with those policy proposals and willingness to rebuild and try to renew, as they term this conference these days. Renewal, unity.
Unity and renewal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Consolidating, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Maake, maybe as a parting shot, in your paper, you critique the approach of the NDR.
Yeah.
Now, is then that your view that the ANC made a tactical error in its approach of a South African revolution?
Yeah, that's a very, very much...
Yeah, as a two-stage...
theory process. Yeah, I think this is where the tactical error happened. Well, I'm not even sure whether if I can just say it's a tactical error, because it could have been intended as well or not intended. But if you go with the developments of the Russian Revolution, then you will realize that the two-stage theory brought by Stalin was a process that sought to divide revolution into stages. You know, even Lenin, there was a time for Duma, where they went for legislature,
for
parliamentary process. Some people argue that the parliamentary process is not effective for a socialist revolution. But ANC, I know, they've never committed themselves to the question of socialism.
It's a broad change.
Yes, but the fact remains, if you talk of a revolution, you are talking about fundamentally transforming and changing the system. Now we look at the Freedom Charter 1955. It promises the people shall govern, they shall have share in the minerals, in the economy of the country. ANC toy with words like a better life for all, you know, equality, you know. So you now imagine a situation whereby there is no one who's poor anymore, there is no one who's so much in need anymore. We are equal, we are prosperous, we live a better life, all of us. Yes, we may not all be millionaires or billionaires, but at least basic stuff should be something that anyone can easily access. But you still have education is a problem, even if the government tries in tertiary level to assist students with NSFAS. It's a crisis. Every year, every semester, every trimester, there is this problem of no funding. NSFAS funds ran out, not paying on time. So you can see that if really the Freedom Charter was applied or implemented, the manner in which it was conceptualized, I for one do not believe in the Freedom Charter. I have just known and realized that it really is not going to be effective or properly implementable. It is self-contradictory, but that is a debate for another day. But the fact remains, if you look at issues like poverty, inequality, and unemployment, you would realize that what are the policies? GAY, for example, was not an effective policy that could bring inequality and unemployment. Actually, GAY exacerbated loss of jobs, exacerbated inequality. BEE itself, or triple BEE, produced a handful of black millionaires, you know, the black middle class. So it brings to question, then what was the struggle all about? What were the promises of the Freedom Charter for? People were promised a better life for all. But now only few people can see the fruits of a better life, not the masses in general. So that is why I said the issue of the Freedom Charter, for me, is self-contradictory. Although it promises, but it lacks the machinery to implement what was promised.
Yeah.
So, in closing, I would say that truly, a tactical error happened. The two-state theory was a mistake. I remember Leon Trotsky wrote something in contrast to Stalin, to say that revolution is permanent. You cannot divide it into stages. So then he was known as the permanent revolutionary. But the truth is, if you look at it, revolution is revolution. The issue of social transformation as the first phase of the NDR, to be followed by economic transformation. On paper, on dotted line, it looks fine. But tell me, what is holding the transformation from the social transformation, which is democratic phase? Why can it not jump to the economic phase? That's where you'll find debates, fierce debates about nationalizing Reserve Bank, about economy belonging to the people, all the contours, economic contours belonging to the people at large. And that's when you'll find that there are even seasoned politicians, seasoned thinkers, even in communism, even SACP members, socialism, people who are in unions, you know, they are the ones who will definitely fight against these principles. Tell you that no, a snail pays. Marx even said allow capital to advance for its own self-destruction, so that comrades can have shares in mines, comrades can have stocks, comrades can buy this and that, you know. Remember, communism talks about ownership, communal share, and ownership of the properties, you know. So many people don't want. People still want to drive Ferraris. Chris Hani died for this. Chris Hani spoke about an incident where comrades will be driving Mercedes-Benzes, staying in plush houses.
In white shirts.
It happens. It is happening, actually. No, I must say that the two-stage theory was a misguided theory, and I think that intellectuals and think tanks in the Tripartite Alliance should be debating. These are the issues that they should be debating. SACP had a conference. I don't think I've never seen such a policy or a move to discuss where the struggle is, where the revolution is, instead of consolidating their own power, their own positions within the party. As much as in the African National Congress itself, policy conferences, electoral conferences are not debating this issue effectively. Where is the NTR? Is it still necessary? Where are we? Can we still regroup? No one talks about this. What is tabled are just jargons. You'll hear a lot of statements about unity in renewal, consolidating democracy, this and that and that. Those are programmatic things. Those are simply structural things, but they are not ideals. They are not goals. They are not liberation ideals that shaped these parties. Remember, they were liberation movements before. Yes, now they are political parties. The ANC is even worse. It's a governing party. So its transition is very important. I'm very happy for this question you have raised. In fact, I think one day we might have to just come up with a discussion only for this. Because really, the party have moved through different transitions and through different eras in the history of our lifetime. You know, it was a liberation movement. It came back from exile. It became a political party. Now it's a political party in government. So what has changed? What is the language now? What kind of language is being spoken? What kind of teachings and training? And that is why people will tell you that the ANC is at war with itself. Others even attempted saying fighting for or battle for the soul of the ANC. But it's really dealing with different things. Today, I'm black. Tomorrow, I'm white. The following day, I'm not even sure what I am. So that issue of
you are a rainbow.
I'm a rainbow, but strangely, the rainbow without a black color. You know, so it's a very interesting one, and it has to be looked into very seriously.
Yeah.
Very seriously, because it just tells us that something was left behind.
Yeah.
The issue of the trajectory, the transition. Where are we going? Where are we?
Yeah.
Where do we come from, and where do we want to go?
Yeah. Well, where are we, and where do we want to go, and how? Most importantly, how are we getting there?
Yeah.
This is Tshwane Talk TV, and as we have said, we deliberate on issues of societal discourse or of national importance, with the view that we begin to engage in our little corners and take South Africa forward.
Yes.
On that note, thank you very much for tuning in on this episode, and let's remind you to subscribe and also to like our videos, and most importantly to stay informed. Make sure that you click that notification button. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you.